So we have some big news coming from Mirrorless rumors. It's actually been circulating quite a bit. It's the new Panasonic S5-II, and they finally did something that we've been waiting for forever, and that is they're adding phase detect autofocus, which is great. But let me go ahead and jump into all these different specs, as well as they actually did a leak of a lot of photos and so this thing is supposed to be coming in hot. I believe it's January 4th. Let's go over it. Fully leaked S5-II and S5-IIx. Didn't mention that before, but that's good. And a 14-28. So that's really cool. A 14 and 28 millimeter lens. I really like that super wide. I'm guessing it could be at f4. We also know that the S5-IIx has what the S5-II doesn't: Apple ProRes and IP streaming functions. So I do wonder if these are going to be very similar cameras and the other one's basically like just an added firmware. That's what it kind of seems like to me. But we'll see if there's extra differentiation. But here's the overlay. This is going to be a 24.2 megapixel CMOS sensor. So this is CMOS. If I'm not mistaken, usually they get their sensors from Sony as well. I could be mistaken. Maybe they do their own. But I know a lot of people, I know Nikon uses Sony sensors and Fujifilm. So maybe Panasonic doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong. 24, it's not as much as a lot of people would probably expect. But I think it's good enough, especially it's going to be doing 6K. I really feel like 6K is starting to come into its own. I know 8K was, all what Canon was pushing and then Sony did with the A1 and Z9. But it seems like 6K is kind of going to be the new mid-range. Mid-tier camera is going to be like a 6K, which was already happening with the A7 III even then, because they had the A7 III from Sony. It over sampled from 6K down to 4K. So just to add it straight up is great. It says it has a AR coat. I looked that up. I think that is, some people think it's a good thing. Some people think it's not so good of a thing. So I will be interested to hear more about that and see how it actually affects the image. Sensor shift type dust removal unit. So I don't know what that is. It'll probably just have that shield that comes down. It'd be interesting to see if they have some new cleaning version of that. That'd be cool. It says it'll be 14 plus stops with Vlog. So, I mean, that's good. Usually what they advertise is, it says 14 plus. So I wouldn't suspect it will be anything much above 14 at all. If it will even hit that in a practical range, you might be able to get 14 stops at like the extremes, but you're probably only going to, within any kind of clean look, you're probably going to be looking at like 12 and a half stops, which, it's still plenty, because you got to be considering if you're lighting something properly and you're actually looking at a subject, then 12 stops is plenty. You're looking, if you're not, you're going to definitely lose some like highlight detail and some color detail at the top extremes, but you're going to be using that in an extreme situation usually where, you're not necessarily going to be lighting just for a subject. Because if you're lighting for the subject, you're going to blow out something probably if you're outside. If you can't control the light source, you're going to do that. So 14 makes sense if you're actually looking at somebody. Or rather 12 is fine if you're, actually have a subject, and 14 plus, that's super cool if you're outside. You want some, I guess landscape and things like that. You want to actually have the extra dynamic range. It sounds good. It's not amazing, but it sounds good. 5-axis, 5-step in-body image stabilization, step image stabilization. Panasonic has really been known for their image stabilization, especially in like the Panasonic GH6 and GH5. I do wonder, I don't really know as much if their full frames are on that level, but if it's on a pretty high level, or if it competes with the actual like GH6, that will be amazing. And I believe that the GH6, I don't think it markets anything past 6.5 steps of image stabilization. Sometimes that's just some marketing numbers. I know that there's a technical side to it, but overall, I mean, just because it has amount of steps is not going to be necessarily saying it's going to be better or worse. So to me, it'll probably be amazing at 6.5. I suspect that. It's a JPEG RAW MOV MP4. Yeah, so JPEG, they're talking about photos here, raw. They kind of just put that in. They kind of looped it all together. H.264, H.265. Okay, these are the big video specs here. 6K 30 at long GOP. So yeah, that makes sense. This isn't going to be all eye. So long GOP makes sense at 200 megabytes per second. It's plenty for long GOP. It's 4.2.0, 10-bit. And usually this is a fairly mid-range camera. So yeah, it says C4K. 60p with 422 10-bit. Is that supposed to be cropped 4K? I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, maybe you can drop in the comment section below. Let me know if that's what that's supposed to be. I would be kind of surprised if it's cropped, but maybe at this level, and they're not wanting to step on what was probably going to come like the S1 or something like that. They're not going to really want to maybe step on that. It says 3.64 million dots OLED viewfinder. Nothing amazing, but not bad. A free angle monitor, 3-inch, 1.84 million dot. Free angle, so I know that Panasonic already kind of does their flip angle thing, but it'll be kind of interesting. I would like to see if they add some extra mobility to it, kind of like Sony has done with the A7R5. Image plane phase detect autofocus / contrast autofocus. And then they also says DFD technology. Now, phase detect autofocus, we've been waiting forever because their contrast, and I mean that contrast autofocus has been awful. I don't know why they've kept it so long. I think Panasonic could have been, I think they'd be playing in the game with Canon and Sony and Nikon if they would have adopted phase detect like 4 years ago, because they were ahead of the game in pretty much every way except for that. And that was a big hurdle for them to get mass appeal. I know some people do not care about autofocus, but the majority of people at this point, or at least the masses, really want good autofocus, including myself. I like autofocus. For them to say phase detection and contrast, Sony does the same thing. I don't know if it works in conjunction with video and photo at the same time. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's just normal. I know Sony has both. And so I think that that's going to be completely fine. We'll see what happens with it, but I think it's going to get rid of that pulsing finally, hopefully. AF will be, -6 EV to -8 EV. Great. It should be able to autofocus fairly dark. So yeah. ISO range is from 100 to 51,200, extended up to 204. Yeah, no one cares. Yeah, I mean, great. 50 to 204. I don't think anybody's going to shoot this at 204,000 ISO. Dual native. Okay, that's good. This is cool. Normal ISO will be 100 to 640. Two really good ranges right there. So now on Vlog, this is cool. 640 and 4000 will be the two dual native ISOs. Sounds good to me. With the Sony a7S III, which is what my primary camera is as of right now, the dual native ISO is 640 and then 12,800. I like it because it's really good, I guess, low light camera. But for most cases, I think you're better off somewhere around 4,000 having the next native ISO, because most people aren't shooting in the dark, especially if you're a 24 megapixel sensor. You probably don't want to do that. HLG will be 400 to 2,500. The mechanical shutter will be 1/8,000. So yeah, that's nothing spectacular, but pretty standard stuff here. Continuous shooting speed. Now here's some good stuff. Maximum 9 frames per second, and then electronic is 30 frames per second. I don't know what that SH is standing for. I'm gonna have to maybe research this a little bit more. But yeah, so I mean, 30 frames per second sounds really good. 9 frames, it could be better at this date and time. But yeah, 30 frames would be plenty, especially for this camera. I'm going to go down here and see if they have the price leaked here, because that would really help. Yeah, I'm not seeing a price leak here. Maybe the price hasn't leaked yet, but if I'm not mistaken, this is usually like $1,600 camera or something like that. Video functions, vertical position, level gauge, nil control, wave format monitoring. That's great. I have that in the R5C. I really love having the scopes on there and the waveform. Panasonic's been doing it for a while. Sony and Canon, you could really learn from this. I know that the Z9 also has that wave format in it. But yeah, bring that wave on there and just let it stay there. Sony lets you have the histograms on there, which is fine, but waveform is really where it's at in my mind. An amorphic de-squeeze display makes sense again. Panasonic's really good with adding a lot of video features, and that's why a lot of professionals like to use it. HLG, a view assistant, LUT view assistant, so that's good. You can use, I think it's going to be able to, it says view assistant, so I wonder if you're going to be able to add your own LUTs to it. That'd be interesting. Color bar, luminance level, live crop, stop motion animation, very cool again. USB-C, HDMI-A, so this is full size HDMI, which is great. Microphone, head jack, SD card, dual slot. Okay, that's fine at 6K. You're not really going to need a CF Express card, but I mean, it's good enough. Bluetooth 5.0, going to kind of go here. It says fan. So this will have a fan in it. That's interesting. I didn't suspect that would happen. Battery, that's kind of a low. If they're only 370 still images, is that what they're rating that at? That's pretty low, if I'm not mistaken. Battery grip, dust and splash, size, weight. Okay. Yeah. So the X model, the only difference that we know about is that this will have... So the 4K 60 is cropped at APS-C. So that's going to be cropped there. The supports Apple ProRes. So it sounds like it's just basically a firmware updated Panasonic. And they usually do that, but I don't know why they're actually renaming it. Usually they just offer like a paid upgrade if they want to do that. That's what they used to do in the past. And then the 14 is an f4 to 5.6 macro, so probably not a very expensive lens here. I would like to see an f4, just a straight f-stop right on through. But yeah, drop in the comment section below and let me know, are you interested in this S5 Mark II? Does this sound like it's going to be the camera for you? Are you a big Panasonic fan? Are you happy as I am that they're getting rid of, or at least they're implementing face detect autofocus as well? I'm excited about it. Drop in the comment section below and let me know.